Welcome, dear students, to this captivating story introducing Vali, a lively young girl determined to catch the afternoon bus on a spring day. Picture the scene. The bus is just about to leave the village when suddenly a tiny hand is raised commandingly, and a small but firm voice shouts, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" Looking at illustration on your screen, notice the diverse characters inside this train-like transport, each with distinct expressions. This helps us connect to the different social interactions we will see in Vali's story. Through her dialogue with the conductor, we see Vali's assertiveness and innocence come alive. Dialogue is such a powerful literary tool that reveals characters' thoughts and feelings directly. Vali's actions also help in characterization, a literary method that paints a vivid picture of a personality through words and behaviors. For instance, when she insists she can board the bus by herself, it shows her independence and pride. Let's pause for 20 seconds and think. Why do you think Vali is so insistent about catching the bus? What does this say about her character at the start of the story? Great thinking. Vali's determination reflects a child's eager desire to explore and gain independence, and it sets the tone for an adventurous journey ahead. Her youthful confidence invites us to reflect on moments in our own lives when we felt ready to take charge and grow. Continuing with our story, let's dive into the lively interaction between Vali and the bus conductor. The conductor playfully addresses Vali as Madam, teasing her with respect that feels a bit too formal for a young girl. Look once again at illustration, paying close attention to the conductor's jolly smile and Vali's shy yet proud posture. The other passengers seem amused as well, creating a warm and joyous atmosphere that captures everyday social life. We can sense the tone, pronounced tone. Here is light-hearted and humorous, inviting us to enjoy the social banter. Notice the use of dialogue, which reveals each character's personality vividly. For instance, the phrase, "make way for madam," is a playful exaggeration, giving Vali an adult-like status which she shyly resists. The description of the bus as new and luxurious also adds to the setting, contrasting with the village bus we might imagine. This shows attention to detail, helping us visualize the journey. Let's pause for 25 seconds and reflect. Why do you think the conductor teases Vali by calling her Madam? What does this tell us about how adults perceive children's growing independence? Wonderful reflections. The conductor's teasing is a gentle way to both acknowledge Vali's maturing dignity and to keep the social order playful. Adults often see children as growing up yet still in need of guidance. This social interaction helps us understand different viewpoints on childhood and independence. Now, let's step into Vali's shoes as she takes in her surroundings with wide-eyed wonder. The bus itself is described as new and gleaming, with shiny overhead bars and a beautiful clock. Imagine the feeling of excitement and novelty she experiences. Looking at illustration, focus on Vali standing on the seat, peering over the canvas blind that blocks her view at first. This image vividly brings to life her eagerness to see the world beyond her limited viewpoint. Through imagery, the author paints a picture of serene nature, the narrow road alongside the canal, palms waving in the breeze, distant mountains touching the blue sky, and endless stretches of lush green fields. This sensory detail helps us connect with the environment, heightening our sense of place and adventure. Vali's standing on the seat also shows her youthful defiance and independent spirit as she chooses to explore despite warnings. Pause for 20 seconds and imagine, what would it feel like to see such a beautiful landscape for the first time? Why do you think the author spent time painting this detailed picture? Beautiful reflections. The author's detailed imagery invites us to travel with Vali and feel her growing awareness of the world. It also sets a mood of freshness and possibility, mirroring Vali's own journey toward independence. In this significant scene, Vali interacts with an elderly man who gently advises her to sit down, concerned for her safety. Vali, however, is quick to assert her independence. "There's nobody here who's a child," she says haughtily, demonstrating a mix of pride and irritation. Illustration helps us visualize this moment. The elderly man's caring yet serious expression contrasts with Vali's proud and defiant stance. The conductor's humorous interjection, joking about Vali's age, adds warmth and lightens the mood. This dialogue explores the important theme of growing up and how children negotiate their identity between dependence and independence. The tone of this exchange shifts smoothly from concern to irritation and then to playful banter, giving depth to the characters. Let's pause for 25 seconds and think, why do you think Vali is so keen to reject being called a child? How does this reflect common feelings children have about growing up? Excellent thoughts. Vali's rejection of child status highlights a universal desire among young people to be seen as capable and mature. The conductor's joke acknowledges this growing independence with kindness, showing positive adult-child relationships. As new passengers climb aboard, our social setting gets richer and more dynamic. Vali, now surrounded by more adults, is polite but reserved. An elderly woman sitting beside her tries to engage in friendly conversation. Looking back at illustration, focus your eyes on the woman's big earrings and the beetle nut stains on her lips. Vivid imagery that the author uses to highlight Vali's discomfort. Vali finds the woman repulsive and responds curtly, showing a desire to maintain personal boundaries. This interaction helps us understand Vali's personality further. She is independent and perhaps wary of strangers, displaying the ordinary awkwardness that children experience in social situations. The term curtly shows Vali's brief, somewhat rude response, emphasizing her reluctance to engage. Let's pause for 20 seconds. Why do you think Vali reacts negatively to the elderly woman? How might these social boundaries reflect a child's growing sense of personal space? Exactly. Vali's reaction is natural for a child who is cautious in unfamiliar social interactions. It reflects an important developmental stage where individuals begin to assert their personal comfort and limit unwanted interactions. Continuing the conversation, the elderly woman asks a series of questions about Vali's travel, where she's going, the street, the house number, in a tone that comes across as nagging or intrusive. Refer to illustration and notice the contrast, the woman's inquisitive, earnest gaze versus Vali's averted eyes and focused stare out the window. The conductor nearby smiles amusedly, adding a social layer to the interaction. This part of the story highlights the theme of independence. The elderly woman voices concern typical of adults looking out for children, while Vali's firm reply emphasizes her self-reliance. "I can take care of myself." The word drivel indicates how Vali sees this as pointless or silly talk, reinforcing her desire to assert control. Let's pause for 25 seconds and analyze. How does the difference in tone between the elderly woman and Vali enhance the conflict in this dialogue? What does Vali's answer reveal about her character development? Excellent analysis. The tone difference shows generational gaps in understanding independence. Vali's confident refusal reveals a maturing self-awareness and the longing to be trusted as responsible, a critical step in childhood growth. Before we continue with our journey through Vali's adventure, it's important to understand some of the key vocabulary words that will help you appreciate the story better. Let's explore these terms together. We have words like slack time, a period when there is less work, and haughtily, which describes speaking proudly or arrogantly. These words give us insight into the tone and setting. Others, such as mimicking, mean copying someone's actions, which connects to the conductor playfully teasing Valley. Then there is repulsive, meaning causing strong dislike, which explains Valley's feelings toward the elderly woman's appearance. We also learn curtly, meaning speaking in a brief, sometimes rude way, capturing Valley's curt responses. Finally, drivel refers to silly nonsense, reflecting how Valley perceives some adult talk. Pronouncing these words correctly, like haughtily and repulsive, will improve your spoken English and deepen your understanding. Try saying them out loud with me. Remember, building your vocabulary opens doors not just to understanding literature, but to expressing yourself confidently in real life. Keep these words close as you read on. Let us now pause and revisit some important moments from the story so far. Answering these questions will help you understand characters' motivations and key details. Question 1. Why does the conductor call Vali Madam? Take 20 seconds to think about his tone and the social meaning behind this playful name. He calls Vali Madam, teasingly, to recognize her maturity even though she is still a child, showing affection and humor. Question 2. Why does Vali stand up on the seat? What does she see now? Pause for 20 seconds. She stands to see beyond the canvas blind blocking the window and observes the beautiful green fields and the canal, showing her curiosity and eagerness to explore. Question 3. What does Vali tell the elderly man when he calls her a child? Take 20 seconds. Vali insists she is not a child and proudly states that she is 8 years old, asserting her growing independence. Question 4. Why didn't Vali want to make friends with the elderly woman? Pause. She found the woman's appearance and smell unpleasant and preferred to keep to herself, reflecting a child's natural social caution. These answers reveal the complex social and emotional layers in this simple story. Keep these insights in mind as we now deepen our literary analysis and language skills. By now, you might have formed a picture of Vali not just as a character, but as a representation of childhood itself. The author skillfully uses characterization to paint Vali as a spirited, independent child. From her commanding shout to stop the bus to her insistence that she can board without help, Vali's personality shines through. Looking again at the composite images from illustration, notice the subtle changes. The eager hand trying to grasp the bus, a touch of shyness when laughed at, proud postures refusing to be called a child, and careful social interactions with adults. These moments reflect universal childhood experiences, the desire to be respected, the awkwardness of social situations, and the excitement of new experiences. Understanding Vali's character invites us not just to read, but to empathize, to remember what it feels like to grow up, to assert ourselves, and to explore the world. Let's pause for 30 seconds and reflect. Can you recall a time when you felt eager to do something on your own, like Vali? How did that experience feel? Wonderful reflections. Recognizing these feelings helps us connect deeply with literature and grow our emotional awareness alongside language skills. Now we move from characters to the ideas woven through the story. The central theme here revolves around childhood curiosity and the journey towards independence. Looking at the series of images from illustration, observe how Vali's confident posture often contrasts with the concerned expressions of the adults. This represents a conflict between the eagerness of childhood and adult caution. This conflict adds tension and realism to the story. We see that everyday moments, like traveling by bus, become meaningful stages where children like Vali negotiate their growing identities. Pause for 25 seconds and think, what lessons about growing up does this story teach us? How do these themes connect to your own life or society at large? Excellent insights. This story reminds us of the tender, sometimes challenging steps toward independence we all experience. It also reflects how adults and children see the world differently, making it an excellent topic for reflection and discussion. Literary devices are the tools authors use to bring stories to life, and in Valley's story, dialogue and imagery play starring roles. Dialogue is how characters talk and interact. Through their words, we learn about their feelings, personalities, and social roles. For example, Valley's shout, "Stop the bus!" "Stop the bus!" immediately captures her urgency and determination. Imagery builds on description, appealing to our senses to create a rich mental picture. The author's description of the narrow road alongside a canal with acres of green fields allows us to see and almost feel the beautiful scenery. This immerses us in Valley's world, enhancing our emotional connection. By noting these devices, we sharpen our literary lens and appreciate the layered meanings behind simple words. Try to spot dialogue and imagery in your next reading. You might be surprised how much they tell you. Pause for 20 seconds and think. How do dialogue and imagery in this story help you understand the characters and setting? Fantastic. Dialogue gives you a window into personalities and relationships, while imagery paints the world they live in, together making literature a vivid and engaging experience. Dialogue is a powerful tool in writing, making stories believable and drawing readers into character conversations. Let's look at how dialogue is punctuated correctly. For example, in the sentence, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" shouted Vali. We use quotation marks to enclose her exact words. The exclamation marks emphasize her urgency and emotion. Notice that the tag "shouted Vali" is outside the quotations, describing the speaker's action. Good dialogue captures how people actually speak. It should reflect the speaker's personality, Vali's assertiveness, the elderly man's concern, or the conductor's humor. Writing dialogue practice can make your storytelling more engaging. Try writing your own short dialogue between two characters. Keeping these tips in mind, use punctuation correctly, show feelings through words, and match speech to the character. Pause for 30 seconds and create a brief conversation you might have with a friend waiting at a bus stop. Excellent. Remember, dialogue breathes life into your writing just as it does in stories. Keep practicing to find your voice and make your characters unforgettable. Let's keep our vocabulary momentum going by practicing our new words. Remember, the best way to remember words is to use them. Try these examples. She spoke haughtily when praised in class, showing proud attitude. Or, the garbage smell was repulsive, describing something disgusting. Now I invite you to create your own sentences with the words curtly and mimicking. This exercise will help you understand not just meanings, but how to use the words naturally in conversation and writing. Pause for 25 seconds and formulate your sentences. Don't worry about mistakes. Creativity is the key to learning. Fantastic work. Playing with language like this will make you a confident and evocative communicator. Keep experimenting with new words every day Now we come to the fun part, creative writing. Using what you have learned about Valley's journey, we invite you to imagine and describe your own version of her bus ride. Try to include sensory details. What might Valley see outside the window, hear from other passengers, or smell inside the bus? For example, the silent blue sky above the fields, the murmur of passengers chatting, or the scent of betel nut from the elderly woman. Another exciting idea is to invent a dialogue between Valley and a fellow traveler. Think about how characters speak differently and what topics they might discuss. Pause for 40 seconds to plan and write a short paragraph or dialogue. Let your imagination guide you. Wonderful creativity. Remember, literature and writing are not just about following rules. They're about exploring your own voice and experiences. Keep writing, keep dreaming. As we conclude our journey, let's reflect on the charming story of Vali, a young girl whose simple bus ride becomes a beautiful tale of childhood courage and independence. We explored how the author brings characters to life through dialogue and imagery, and how themes of growing up and social interaction resonate across cultures and times. Remember, literature is not just about words on a page. It's about connecting emotionally, learning from experiences, and expressing your own creativity. When you read stories like Vali's, you become part of a larger conversation about life itself. I encourage you to keep reading, keep asking questions, and keep imagining. Your journey in English literature is just beginning. Thank you for being such attentive and thoughtful learners. Until next time, happy reading and writing.